Hey everybody, Ken Sat Kunum, North Star Technology Group, and I'm joined again today by our illustrious Chief Security Officer, Dan DeFay. Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Going well, Ken. How about you?
I can't complain. It's Friday, right? We're this side above the dirt, so life is good. Um, what's happening in cybersecurity this week?
Yeah, I just a couple hours ago, one of our cybersecurity or cyber insurance partner forwarded me this global cybersecurity outlook report by Accenture, and there was some really interesting things in here. I thought it might be cool to just kind of go through this and talk about what we're seeing in here.
Yeah, I'd love to. I love reports like this, right? Because it's always an interesting take on what's happening in what we live and breathe every day.
Absolutely. So, yeah, this is just, I guess they do this report every year. And basically, it's not looking good.
What did you expect, right?
Yeah.
I think if anyone's been paying any attention at all to this, the news every week, there's some large organization that has a data breach and their stuff is all over the news, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, one of the things that it talks about is that, there's the emerging technology, the AI, and those sorts of things are really going to be, um, having an impact on cybersecurity and making it even more difficult to defend businesses and organizations from those attacks. So yeah, it's really looking interesting. The other problem also to compound that is the shortage of skilled talent out there to help defend against these things. So, you know,
And that's just getting worse, right? I mean,
yeah,
even and when we try to recruit, right, trying to find people that are interested and skilled and educated in this is getting harder and harder, and a lot of it is because the pay is just getting out of control, right?
yep, absolutely. It's just we're seeing all different kinds of attacks happening, especially with the business email compromise. They're getting so tricky now, and even the best security controls can't stop everything.
Right.
So with a heavy volume of things coming through, eventually something's going to slip through,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be important to really have a good cyber strategy uh, to help defend your organization.
Yeah, and last week we talked about business email compromise, right? And obviously, if future videos, we'll talk about different areas and different controls. But we if you want to review that, go check out last week's post on email. It's one of the biggest attack vectors that we see.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just digging a little more into this report, I thought page 5 was really great with a lot
Yeah,
of these statistics. 29% of organizations reported that they had been materially affected by a cyber incident in the past 12 months. So I want you to think about that. That's almost 30%. So 3 out of 10. And I don't know about you, but I haven't had an automobile accident in the last 12 months.
yeah,
I don't think I
yeah.
know anybody that has. So, I mean, it's just kind of interesting that, you know, these numbers are where they are now.
Well, and besides that, Dan, that the key word I think in that sentence is reported.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. There's a large percentage of organizations that have a breach. They know they had a breach, and they're keeping their lips shut. Right? They're not going to make announcements. They're not going to tell anybody. And then let's face it, probably the rest of them have had a breach and they didn't even know it.
Yeah. I was
So
just speaking with a bunch of attorneys at an event last month, and I asked, people there, do they know somebody that's had an attack, and everybody raised their hand.
yeah,
It was unreal. It wasn't like that, a couple of years ago,
no,
but now everybody knows somebody, right? And it might have even been them, but they didn't want to admit it.
right. Asking for a friend, right?
Yeah. Um, so for those that were hit, look at that. 41% said that they suffered an incident because of a third party.
Right. So, to me, a couple things that I'm reminded of when I read that, right? Number one, obviously the importance of third party supply chain risk assessments, right? Like you see my CSRA t-shirt, but like, being able to assess how your partners, your supply chain vendors are handling their own risk.
Mm-hmm.
And then for whatever reason, my default thought was, yeah, of course they're going to say it was caused by somebody else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, is there ever going to be an organization that has a cyber breach that's going to be like, yeah, that was me, my bad? Like, no, they're going to push the blame. Right. And that's why it's so important, right, that you have your own house in order, right? Because there's some organization out there that's going to say that it was your organization's fault.
Right. Yeah. And really, I don't know, if you've seen this as much as I have, but almost every law firm or, professional services organization, they're getting all of these questionnaires from any of their potential clients now, asking them to prove that they are doing things to protect themselves on the cybersecurity.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like we're used to that happening with customers that are subjected to compliance regulations, right? Like CMMC, potentially even HIPAA, right? Especially when you work with large organizations that do business with the DoD or the government, lots of partners and vendors, want to have that book of evidence that you're doing all the right things and successfully managing your security controls. But we're starting to see that slipping into even smaller and less relevant organizations or industries, right? Like we just spoke, Dan and I just had a conversation with an executive recruiter, right? That now is getting, requests, right, from businesses, right, that they are doing recruiting for to make sure that they're cyber secure. I mean, have you seen that?
Yeah,
Like it's
wild.
crazy.
We see it, for hospitals and, some companies that are, highly regulated, but this company actually wasn't in any kind of regulated industry.
No. Yeah, and I get it, right? Like you're going to recruit, C-level executives. You want to make sure that data is safe, but it's wild how it's starting to push downwards, right? In less sensitive information businesses.
Well, and think about what they're dealing with. I mean, even though they're not regulated, that's some very sensitive information. If they're trying to place a CEO for a company, they obviously don't want that company they're leaving from to, get wind of it.
Yeah. So, and I want to point out this last statistic. 60% of this one blew my mind. 60% of executives agree that cyber and privacy regulations effectively reduce risk in their organization. I don't know, like, at least up until very, very recently, I don't know if there was ever an executive that I would ask that and said, hey, Mr. CEO, like, are you happy that you have to subject yourself to compliance, HIPAA, CMMC, Sarbanes, GDPR? They'd have been like, no, of course not, right? But this is interesting. So up 21%. So even C-level executives are recognizing the need to put some structure, right, around a cybersecurity program.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So I just really wanted to kind of share this because it's, so many things. Let me just scroll through here really quick. Yeah, there's just, they're talking about more things are just really getting out of whack here. Basically we know most companies just aren't doing the right thing as far as cyber, which also, since we got this from an insurance person, it just makes me want to reemphasize the role of cyber insurance because it absolutely is a critical component to your cyber strategy. You just need to understand when it is useful and when it's not. So if my hand here is the attack, your North Star or whoever your IT provider is on this side of it. The moment the attack happens, there's not much we can do at that point. Now you've got to bring insurance into it. So insurance is good post breach, but pre-breach, you need to be doing all you can to prevent the breach.
Yeah, we talk about and maybe these numbers are exaggerated, 99%, right, we do in prevention. It's that 1% after breach that is so expensive that you rely on cyber insurance partners for that, right?
But it is refreshing to see that in the insurance industry, they're coming up with programs to track the security progress of their customers, right? So, and we've done this for a lot of our customers too, making sure that maybe they don't have other compliance they have to comply with, but they've got their cyber insurance policy. So we can align, their technical controls and their security around that, so that when they do have to use that policy, they've been doing all the things correctly to actually get paid and not be told that they're not going to get a payout.
Right. Any last comments at all, Dan? Are we able to share this report, or is this kind of proprietary? I probably should have asked you ahead of time, but
yeah, I think this is public domain. So if we'll run it by legal, and if we can share it, we'll have Amber put it on the website.
Yeah, and I'll just put an email address. You can email us, and I know Amber is going to be upset with me, and if anyone's still watching this video at the end here, that she wanted me to post our booking link, and I'll do that next time. She's actually in this room, and I try to get her attention, but she's not. But email info, and if we're allowed to send this report and you guys want a copy, we'll give you a copy.
All right.
See you, Dan. It sounds like you got more security issues going on there.
I do. I've got some kind of monster right here.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.